through the process of kind of personal growth, reevaluate my relationship with alcohol to where I've worked out some of the things that were drawing me towards it through therapy, through going through my own therapy, and then realizing, okay, this isn't as much of a trigger for me. Like, I don't need to rely on this thing. And
Feel for you.
I think it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
Certainly I've worked with people where they might never be able to take another sip of alcohol again, or choose insert drug of choice,
Yeah.
right? Like, it might be that type of thing that they have to come to that acceptance of, like, okay, you've done this a million times, and like, we have to just come to terms with,
Yeah.
maybe there's no,
Say bye-bye to that.
but I also think it's both and, right? Then I've also seen people kind of reshape their relationship with things that they used to turn to because they've done the inner work that allowed them to gain insight to what led them to those behaviors.
Think of Gabor Mate's stuff in the realm of Hungry Ghosts, and the way he talks about addiction, that it's a symptom of an underlying
For sure.
thing. And what I hear from you is that if you manage that underlying issue, that this thing is no longer, their relationship with alcohol or relationship to whatever the substance is changes, where it can be maybe recreational, or it can be this medicine that it really is. Like, alcohol doesn't have to be a coping strategy. It can be just a celebratory act, or, you know, a one-off.
Yeah, and I will say, like, I have a very strong history of alcoholism in my family.
Yeah.
And for me, I never processed it well.
Yeah.
And I think the Huberman Lab does they have the alcohol, he has a podcast on alcohol, and I learned so much from that. I thought I knew a lot about it, but it was interesting because one of the ways in which he characterizes a dependence or someone who's at high risk for developing alcohol use disorder is the ability to kind of continue consuming without having any perceived negative side effects. So that person that looks like they can drink and drink and drink and drink, but it's not showing up.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, having very little and it going to extremes, blacking out, like losing your ability to, losing your prefrontal cortex right away. So both are risk factors. And I think for me, it was like that, identifying that, okay, I have all the precursors that if I continue down this path, this could look bad, So there's always that recognition. And so it's always in the back of my mind. And when I go through something really stressful, it's always in the back of my mind. Like, I'm not going to have that around. I don't feel drawn to it anyway.
Yeah.
But it became very clear to me. And I think about it when I went through my divorce. I was just like, I'm not going to have that be anything that is going to become something that I turn to. So that's when I turned to jiu-jitsu.
Turn to the weights, turn to riding bikes, or running, rock climbing, jiu-jitsu, turn to something that's healthy, that is an investment in your body.
Yeah.
I believe in that.
So if I were going to leave with anything, it's really kind of that personal experience. My passion for jiu-jitsu comes through a lot in therapy and I love it because what it did for me is we talk about the biopsychosocial perspective. Right?
Yes.
So you have the physiological response.
Yeah, the changes in your body that occurs through that investment in yourself and the practice.
Well, and not only that, but the actual physical connection, because jiu-jitsu
it's a hug. It's a bunch of hugging.
Like you're hugging.
Yeah.
So there's so much physical contact, and when
it's like strategic hugging.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So there's the physiological effects of like having that closeness, physical touch, which for me, why it was so helpful in my marriage is I wasn't having that. I no longer have this core relationship that's providing me with this level of intimacy. And now, and when you do jiu-jitsu, it's such a cognitive process. It's like you're thinking 2-3 steps ahead. And so you have that physiological effect, which I would say you have to develop trust with your teammates. So it's kind of like this oxytocin.
That's a social part. You got the teammates, you got this community.
Yeah. So you have the sense of community, but you have the physiological response of like building a bond, that oxytocin that comes from like having physical touch and building a bond of connection in that way. And then obviously like there's a lot of dopamine too. You have this motivation to excel or to you're when you it can be very addictive. For me, it was like, okay, I want to continue to do this thing. And there was so much motivation towards doing this thing. And then it became like a family affair. I mean, I put my kids in it first. I didn't even know what it was. And I was like, that looks so fun.
Well, it
And
had a holistic benefit.
yeah, there was, and for the reason why I introduced my kids to it was because I could see that they so desperately needed a physical outlet for all this boy energy,
Mm-hmm.
which is so discouraged in our educational institutions. Like,
Yeah.
it's so hard for boys. They're not meant to sit still and be in these spaces and have the sustained attention. And it's difficult for girls too in different ways.
Yeah.
But it's just not conducive to the need to just get out this energy. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and I also needed something that I could bond with them in
Yeah.
a way that was like physical but healthy.
You found it in jiu-jitsu.
So I found it in jiu-jitsu. And what I say to people in the therapeutic process is like, look, like for me, it was jiu-jitsu because it gave me the sense of connection, physical touch.
Mm-hmm.
It also helped me build this community, and it was challenging.
Yeah.
So it hits all these areas where, if you think, and there's also this motivation of like keeping yourself healthy so you can train.
So you can do it. Yeah.
So my lifestyle changed as a result of it because the people that I was hanging out with were not going out and drinking or partying.
Yeah.
Like, we wanted to train the next day. So I can't speak enough to
find your movement
find your
medicine.
jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Find whatever
that is.
jiu-jitsu is for you.
Find whatever jiu-jitsu is for you, and see how having something that has all these benefits can impact your life.